Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We'll be looking at this photograph today, which is an HDR merge. It is a combination of 9 images that I took. And as you can see, the lighting is very interesting, even with 9 combined images. At the top of this warehouse, there was a 10 by 20 foot skylight, which is why the middle of this image is so bright and the sides are so dim. So my goal for today is just to balance out the shadows and the highlights so the panels look the same on both sides. And so what this image is I capture 9 different panels here that my very good friend Micaela Levesque painted up in Connecticut for a warehouse that is being renovated into a art studio, art workshop business. And she celebrated a lot of different creators and artists and scientists, including Mrs. Marie Curie over here. And so what we're going to do to get started, we're of course going to come down. Chromatic aberration is already removed and our lens correction is already turned on. And that is actually, if you're not aware, there is a setting in Lightroom where you can choose what is automatically applied to photos that are being imported. I always have the chromatic aberration and lens correction enabled, so I don't have to worry about that whenever I'm looking at a new photo. For some of the photos I took up in Connecticut, I was on my MacBook Air, and the preset was not enabled on that computer, so I have to double check all of the photos in this album. Okay. So we're going to come up here, bring our exposure down, and again you can see how much detail was preserved by doing an HDR image, and I can tell here that I probably could have been fine with a 7 or 5 image bracket just because we top out on the exposure very quickly. So we're just going to bring it down a little bit because we have a lot of room to play all over. I'm going to bring our blacks down. Bring our highlights up, just see where we are. Contrast, immediate pop in the color. I'm also going to go ahead and straighten this image. Oops, let's see. We're going to use the panels here as our reference. Oops. There we go. And you can see the panels are angled. So these are also going to be a little angled. And even though sometimes the auto leveling and auto verticaling in Adobe can be a little inconsistent, I will say that the guided method, it's phenomenal. And if I'm having a hard time with the auto settings, I will always just come back to guided. It does a really good job. Perfect. So this is what we're going to be working with now. I'm also going to crop out a lot. Awesome. 16:9. Beautiful. Oops. Let's pop out of this and pop back. Excellent. Awesome. Wonderful. Excellent. So this is what we're going to be working with today. And you can immediately see how the center section, very highlighted, the right and left side, a little shadowy, a little darker. We're going to start off by doing a linear gradient this direction. And as you stretch this out, you can see the red section gets darker. And it's basically an area of effect where the more saturated red section is where the adjustments will take the most effect, and the lighter red section, it feathers in to that darker section. So if I increase the exposure, you'll see it increases a little bit here and increases a little bit more over there. Awesome. Now we're going to do this number. Beautiful. And what I did just now was I duplicated the mask and inverted it. So same mask, but turned the opposite direction. And now we're going to bring this up over here as well. Bring our exposure up. And again, this just balances out the image so that the middle is going to look similar to the right and the left. And now I can tell that the highlights are a little, they match this, but this side, especially this section, is still a little darker than I would like. So I'm going to come in and just make a secondary one. I'm going to bring those shadows up a little bit more. That's what happens if we take them all the way down, all the way up. But you can see right there on the moon, we should feather it a little bit more so it's equal. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, now we'll come back here. Bring our contrast up. Going to increase our vibrance a little bit. So again, this is where we started. This is where we are currently. Before, after. The next thing I'm going to take a look at in this image in particular is making sure that my hues match what is in the image. And the first one I see over here, ooh, very close up, is our blues and our greens. So we're going to take a look here. We'll start with hue. We'll start with luminance, actually. We'll bring this up. It's funny because the more you edit photos, the more you realize blues are greens are blues. Greens are in everything. Purple's magenta is in everything, and I am in awe at the people who are able to do this automatically. For me, sometimes it is just a combination of trial and error until it looks just about right. So we're going to bring our luminance up now. And now it looks a little too saturated. But before we touch saturation, since these lines here are blue and green, we're going to look at green and blue before we adjust that part. So let's see. And you can see it's just the faintest amount there when I do that. It's so small, but you can see it. Let's take a look. Awesome. Okay. Let's take a look at this color, particularly that section. You can see how much that just changes the whole thing. Bring our luminance up a little bit. Awesome. Now let's take a look at our pinks. How's that skull looking? Gorgeous. How do our pinks and purples look? So the first thing I notice is right there on her cheek. That's a little too purpley. This color is a little too purpley. We want it to be a little bit more pink. So, and my goodness, if that just doesn't blow my mind when I think a color is a color and it's not. So we'll take a look here. We'll click it. Huh, see, look, it's purple and it's blue. So we'll bring this here just a little bit, a smidge. I say smidge a lot. If I need people to move over in a photo, just move over a smidge. I think it's one of my favorites. Let's see. Nice. And of course, color correcting, color grading, it is all subjective. Some people will find other things to be more attractive than others. But when you're photographing something like a piece of jewelry or a piece of artwork, it is very good to try and have the colors as close to life as possible. And I can still see a little bit of pink here. And our blue's a little, or this color. So let's see what happens if we do this. Awesome. Bring our lightness down. Let's see. Now we're going to come here and bring this guy up a little bit. Bring our saturation down. Let's see what happens if we do this. Awesome. Now this guy, let's see. Excellent. Awesome. So for this guy, you can see how that affects the image. I'm gonna bring him back. He's a little bit more red than he is showing up here, so we're gonna bring him a little bit this way. We're also gonna bring our whites up a little bit. Let's see. Beautiful. And I'm very happy with the details here. This looks awesome. Micaela is an incredibly talented mural artist, and she is just making waves over in Connecticut. She got her big break a handful of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. She started doing murals around the same time I started doing photography. And she did a huge mural over in Hartford, Connecticut, of RBG and a few other notable women. And that's what started her mural career. And she's been doing great ever since. I love her style. It's been such a pleasure to watch her evolve. Wow. Uh-oh, what happened? Where did our image go that we were just editing? Uh-oh. Let's just do a couple of undos. Oh, I accidentally deleted it. And so now here we are. And it looks very bright right now. So the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna undo that. We're gonna bring it down a little bit, bring our shadows down a little bit. And I'm going to apply a mask, another mask, that lets us decrease the background while the exposure of the background to make our image pop a little bit. And this may be unnecessary, but this is kind of how I like to do it. So we're gonna come here and we're gonna subtract. We're gonna do a little brush. I like to do the brush instead of the object just because it makes it look a little bit more natural around the edges, less harsh on the lines. And you can see that my feather flow and density aren't turned all the way up. And again, that is just for the purpose of trying to make the image look as true to life as possible, real, unedited, unadulterated. So let's see. So now we have this mask. We're gonna bring the exposure down. Beautiful. Bring our shadows down. You can see the difference. Very nice. Love it. Let's see. The more I look at it, the more I feel like it's leaning away from me a little bit, so I am going to do this number. See if we can bring it down a little bit more. Excellent. Perfect. So here's where we started, and here's where we are now. Bring this up a little bit more. Bring our contrast. I love her work. Wow. There you have it, folks. So lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you were able to learn anything, or if you have any feedback, comments, tips, or tricks that you'd like to share with me, more than happy to have them. I've been doing this for a long time, but I am by no means a master. I'm more than open to any feedback you guys have to share. So let me know if you guys have any questions for me. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.